All right. Welcome to This Week Inside the NYK. I am the objective fan, straight out of Kings County, New York City's finest, and you know the vibes. And this is the podcast dedicated to 365 Knicks. So if you are a Knicks fan, you are in the right place. Follow me as we cover this week between October 14th to the 20th. We're going to get into all the hot topics and all the nice details to keep you up to date. So if you're a Knicks fan that's busy on the go, give me 50 minutes. I give you the Knicks. That's what this podcast is dedicated to. Just giving you a catch up. And going forward, we may make some changes to the format. Uh, One of the things I'm considering is dividing up the show into two shows. So it'll be two 25-minute episodes. We'll keep the Monday drop date and then maybe do a Wednesday or Thursday drop date. Something to consider, or I might even do it live. Now, another thing that I'm still on my co-host search, getting some inquiries, good people, good energy. A lot of people that bleed orange and blue. Yes, pun intended. You got to go to shop.theobjectivenickfan.com to check out the merch. I've been getting some good inquiries from people that are definitely interested in hosting. But the problem is that, they either never gone live, did content, things of that nature, or they don't really have the right equipment set up. So I'm looking for someone. The co-host search continues. You can send the email to info@theobjectiveknicksfan.com and I will respond. I check that email every day. And even if you just want to get in contact with me, you can email me there. And then what you can do is comment on the video to let me know that you sent the email. Now, definitely, if you're new to the channel, if you're on YouTube, subscribe. If you're listening on Apple, Spotify, all these things that this podcast will be uploaded to, definitely hit the buttons on there to stay abreast of what's going on. And look, today we got some interesting topics from the week. We're going to get into some Joel Embiid. I love late week news. That way I could leave with it on Monday. We're going to get into the Joel Embiid rumor that he wants to come to the Knicks. We're also going to talk about the legal issues with the Toronto Raptors. There's some updates there. And we're going to talk about I'm going to give a preseason review. I mean, a lot of you guys are not going to like my preseason review because I honestly don't really care about preseason. I really don't. That's why I didn't even write a game post for the. Normally, I write game posts for each games. You can check that out typically on the YouTube channel right here, or you can check it out on the Facebook page as well. But I always write a game review, talking about what happened in the game and things like that. I didn't even do one for the last game because I feel like these preseason games are pointless. They're great for preparation, but they're pointless. And then we also do some reviews for the season as well. So let's get it. Before we get there, this Wednesday is going down. I will be doing a live play-by-play. Now, some of you guys are like me. You don't like watching the Knicks games when it's on national TV. So I will be doing a live commentary. You can watch the game with me, and I will be your commentator. I will make it colorful. I will add spice to it. Because let's face it, these guys, even though they do a great job at all of these national TV networks, they don't give the Knicks the justice that we need because we bleed orange and blue. Pun intended. Go check out the shop. And so we need someone that's going to give us the actual good commentary, the Knicks-centered commentary. And I am that guy. So definitely join me this Wednesday at 7 o'clock. We're going to be covering the Celtics Knicks season opener. I can't wait. I know you can't either. And let's get to it. So we're going to talk about these games. I'm going to start from descending order because we had 3 games this week. And I'm not going to spend too much time on it. These games, in my opinion, a lot of Knicks fans, and rightfully so, are pretty disappointed that, we lost these games. I mean, Jordan Poole has 41 points in a preseason game. I mean, that's ridiculous. That doesn't make sense, but it is preseason. And typically, even though the starters played more minutes this game, RJ got 34 minutes, Randall 29, Brunson 25, just to get their legs under them. None in crunch time. And so when guys put up big numbers in preseason, people go, "Oh, look what he did." I take it with a grain of salt because it's against a lot of the backup guys. I mean, some of these guys, Jay Bernard, who's that? Who's Cooks? Who are these guys? How are these guys going to be there during the regular season come? Maybe. But for the most part, these are guys unknown, like Charlie Brown Jr., Salute to Charlie Brown. We are Knicks people, so we know our guys. But I'm just saying, someone in Boston's looking like, who's Charlie Brown Jr.? You know what I'm saying? Who's Daquan Jeffries? You know, even though he had a good G League season with the Westchester Knicks, but like that's what the preseason is about, giving these guys a showcase, giving these guys a blueprint. You know, RJ, like I said, I like his aggression taking it to the basket. I think that he will have a better start than normal. Typically, RJ, you know, he struggles, but in this game was the perfect description of what I just said. He struggled early in the game, wasn't shooting well. Then in the second half, he had a couple of threes to offset his shooting numbers to make his percentages look pretty good. Grimes, I did a video saying that Grimes should be moved to bench. And it's not because I don't like Grimes. I have a vendetta against Grimes. It's not because I don't think Grimes is a good player. I think he's all those things and has the potential to be more. But at the same time, I believe in putting your best foot forward. And you have to go with Josh Hart. I think Josh Hart is the guy that should start. But he didn't really. And another thing too, the chemistry with the starting five on the offensive end, I don't think Grimes has really adapted to that role well. Brunson didn't have the best shooting game. You know, even got a little frustrated and showed some energy and got a tech. I don't even think Brunson gets technical fouls normally, but you know, Brunson had a tough shooting night, but he hasn't been getting much minutes in the preseason. And I'm gonna give you something now. I'm gonna touch on this during the preseason or during the season review. It's gonna be some rough games. It's gonna be some rough games. Mitch has looked pretty solid. He's looking to attack off the offensive rebound like he does, but with a little bit more passion. I think Mitch is going to have a really good year this year, especially when he's matched up with centers that are below his level. Mitch does a great job. Randall, he's 100% healthy. He had 20 points in his game. His shooting is incredible. Julius Randle, I got him going back to the All-Star and being an All-NBA team, and he showed why the game is just going to be even more easier for him, and I look forward to seeing that. This kid right here, Mike Muscula, man, he's a good shooter. This kid was lighting it up from three. And he's a center. He's 6'11". I like this kid. You know, wow, he shot 39% from downtown in 63 games. So this kid right here, if he becomes available, man, and we're in need of a center, I would look into that. The loss against the Celtics, another game that was pretty disappointing. If you care about preseason games, what I got out of this is that you know the Celtics are they're ready for the season. They're going to be a problem. They're going to be a regular season dream. I wouldn't be surprised if they win 60 games. It's the playoffs is where they're gonna fall off, and I'll get a little bit more into that when we get into the season review. We're gonna get into the flagship topic too with Joel Embiid is coming. I like to break down the games. This is this week inside the New York Knicks, and we're covering the periods between the 14th to the 20th, and these games were in that stretch. So yeah, the Celtics big four, they look like they're in game shape. KP, his shooting from the field was amazing. Um, I'm just curious to see how it looks in the regular season. Everything that's glitz and glam in the preseason because you're not going up against the greatest competition. And in this game, the Knicks didn't play their starters, their top six guys. And they let the bench guys get it go. Let me tell you something. Quentin Grimes looked good in this game, and he typically does look good in the games where he, is the starter and he doesn't play that starting unit. This is another reason why I want Quentin Grimes to come off the bench, and I didn't even put that in the video, is that I think he plays better with the second unit. I think that he is someone who just doesn't adapt with that starting lineup just yet. Maybe he'll get there, but right now, no. Dante DiVincenzo, his shooting hasn't been good, but like I said, it's just preseason. It's a warm-up. Doesn't count. But one thing I like about Dante DiVincenzo, his defense is amazing. I like the way he gets deflection. He has a knack for getting his hands on the ball. Like he's really special in that regard defensively, and I think he's going to be a big boost to us. I wrote this is actually a game post. I'll touch on some of the things I wrote from my game post. You can check that on the community section. Jericho Sims in this game against the Celtics showed me that he can do a decent job guarding smaller guys. Now he's definitely not a Jaylen Brown stopper, but in the first quarter, he played some solid defense on Brown, even managed to get a steal on him, and then got a nice block on Sam Hauser. These are all guys that are like small forwards and two guards. Sam Hauser is a small forward. You see, he's 6'7", right? So, and Sims was matched up with these guys because they're really testing him at that power forward spot. And contrary to popular belief, like I did in that RJ video, that the power forward position is the weakest position in basketball, and you don't have that many big bodies that you have to worry about. Definitely, this game was a solid game from the backup guys, and then we'll jump into this Minnesota Timberwolves game, which was this game was a very weird game, and you know, losses don't matter, in preseason, but I think this is one game that the Knicks should have won. Now, once again, I mean, if you look at the minutes, the big three didn't really play much. Even RJ had 26 minutes because RJ, his shooting hasn't been the best from three, not from two. From two, he's been on the money, but from three, he hasn't been able to knock down the ball. And Tibbs is just trying to get RJ in a rhythm, and that's why he's been giving him the minutes he's been giving him. Um, Randall had a tough matchup with Towns, and this spawned some Karl-Anthony Towns rumors that, I think are ridiculous. Oh, we need to trade Randall for Towns, but Towns didn't even shoot that well. He was 6 of 14. It's just that he was on the money from downtown. He did a lot of damage from downtown, but Towns, we'll get to that. Rudy Gobert paint dominant, like how he always does, but not. But another one thing that stood out to me that I don't even think I wrote this in my game notes. Oh yeah, no, I did actually. I said that I thought that typically when Mitch goes up against a center that is above his level, he kind of like falls, to the side. But I think that he did a great job in this game matching Gobert's energy, especially he took advantage too in the second quarter when Gobert was in the game. That's when Mitch did a lot of his damage in this game. We'll see when the season starts what happens. But I like that Mitch is taking these tough matchups. Uh, Definitely Fournier had a good game this game, and this will be my last point. 3 of 6 from the field. And Fournier has been showing his 2-point bag. He's been getting his 2-point bag, and I thought that was pretty impressive. And that's all. It's just preseason. Like, people making preseason the end all be all. It's not that serious. And, we're going to move forward. We're going to move forward. Now, preseason review, just to wrap up this whole preseason stuff, right? There was some articles that came out. Julius Randle says Knicks urgency is now. It's time to go, And it seems like that last game against the Wizards really like left the Knicks in somewhat of dim spirits. Like they felt kind of bad that they lost that game. I mean, you never want to lose a game, but it's a preseason game. Jalen Brunson said it was horrific. He's got to be better. Jalen Brunson is just a hooper. He's just a hooper. When you're a hooper, you want to win games, right? Quickly didn't play that game. But why they cut Isaiah Roby? Isaiah Roby, I wrote about him in one of my game reviews. I said, Isaiah Roby had an excellent game. He was showing what was in his bag. He hit like 3 threes. He had a nice little post up. He's a power forward, a versatile power forward at that, and they cut him. Maybe, the Knicks might have a plan. Listen, I'm all in on Leon Rose and Coach Tibbs, so maybe they have a plan. I don't understand it, but you know, it that was an interesting move to me. But yeah, but Julius Randle, time is now. We have to go. This is a real thing here. Obviously, we don't like how we finish the preseason. We're gonna have to take strides and step forwards in these next coming days. But we will. We've been in positions where we had to get it going before. We don't want to rely on that, but we understand that we have to make more. We have to have a more sense of urgency. So we'll take those steps. Yeah, I mean, the Knicks are going to be fine, man. I mean, the Knicks are making the transition from a top 5 team to a top 3 team in my position, right? I think that the Knicks are top 3 behind the Celtics and Milwaukee. The Celtics is a regular season dream. I just got through arguing with some guys about the Celtics and how they think the Celtics are the top team in the East. And I'm going with Milwaukee, but I can see the scenario where the Celtics will be the number one seed. And I really want that second round matchup against the Celtics because I think we can beat them. But to all the preseason people who are upset, it's only preseason. Let me tell you what the Milwaukee Bucks preseason record was this time last year. And you guys probably knew it, but you forgot it because no one cares about preseason. The Milwaukee Bucks last year were 0-5. And guess what? They went on to win the regular season. They probably would have won the championship if Giannis didn't get hurt. So the preseason doesn't matter. There's no preseason. You want to see the preseason heroes? Let me see if I can pull up the preseason heroes. You want to see the preseason heroes, man? Let's see if we could get it. Let's see the full preseason standings, right? Look at the Minnesota Timberwolves as your preseason heroes. Toronto Raptors. Okay, Boston. All right, yeah, Boston because they're dialed in. But the Orlando Magic. I mean, Washington Wizards. None of these teams are going to be good teams, man. Houston Rockets. You want to see a preseason? This is your preseason finals matchup. The Houston Rockets and the Minnesota Timberwolves. I mean, preseason doesn't matter. No one values the preseason on that level. And I think that, definitely need to knock it off. Tom Thibodeau wasn't happy with what went on in the preseason. You're not going to win like that. Of course, listen, if the Knicks are playing like that in the regular season, then you panic. Karl-Anthony Towns, they're saying that their beef was squashed. Coach Tibbs, they had beef years ago. Two grown men got together, had a conversation. Towns said he scored 17 points, and it was done. It was done years ago. Yeah, they had some issues. Listen, men are gonna, especially when you're in a competitive arena like basketball, you're gonna have times and moments where you don't get along, you don't see eye to eye, and et cetera, et cetera. And I get that. And I'm glad to see that they worked it out and they're on good terms and that's positive stuff. But this news led to a whole lot of rumors that the Knicks were going to get Karl-Anthony Towns. And because I don't think Minnesota, they probably could be an 8th seed again this year, but I don't see them, doing better than what they did last year. And maybe now that that pushes Towns to demand a trade because now we're in the era of superstars really like going out their way. I mean, look what James Harden's doing in Philadelphia. He's not even going to practice. So we're in the era of these superstars forcing their way out of teams, and maybe Towns decides to do that. But I just want to put a nip in this Karl-Anthony Towns to the Knicks, fiasco or or rumors. First off, I'm gonna say this. Karl-Anthony Towns and Randall are the same age. Karl-Anthony Towns has shown you that he's more of a power forward than he is a 5. So the argument could be, oh, well, you could play Towns and Randall together. I don't think it's going to work because they're kind of the same player. I mean, you might give Towns the edge on defense, but at the end of the day, you're going to need someone who doesn't need the ball in their hands to be effective, right? And both of these guys, besides rebounding and a little bit of defense from Karl-Anthony Towns, need the ball to be effective. So how many, you got Jalen Brunson, who's a shoot-first point guard, Julius Randle, who gives you 25, 10, and 4, and then now you're going to add another 20, 10-plus guy. I don't think that that's a good option. First off, Karl-Anthony Towns, he hasn't played over 50 games in the last 4 years due to injuries. Doesn't have no playoff success, gets bumped out of the first round, and I don't think that he's the right star that I would trade a quickly package with RJ or whoever the young package. Now, I don't want to trade my guys for you Knick purists out there. I don't want to trade them unless I'm getting MVP candidate player that's really going to turn us into a championship contender. We've seen what happened with teams just trade for guys with names and how that doesn't work. I don't think Karl-Anthony Towns is that guy. So I just wanted to give a little segue to this Karl-Anthony Towns. I'm going to put that rumors to bed. Now we're going to jump into the lawsuit. And like I said, we're going to get into Joel Embiid. We covered some Karl-Anthony Towns. We did the preseason review. So, if you're still listening, definitely listen to the end of this podcast. I'm gonna give you my takes on all this stuff, and I'm gonna keep up with the news. Maybe you didn't know some of these things. I always get Knick fans that know a lot, that pay attention, but there's certain things we talk about on this podcast that you may not have caught, and this is one of them. So a lawyer actually talked about the Toronto Raptors situation and gave his take on what he thinks about the lawsuit. So let's touch on that, right? So, after reviewing the court documents and the nasty spat over alleged stolen scouting secrets, a legal expert believes the Raptors have a stronger argument to dismiss the Knicks suit because the court tend to favor legal arbitration over litigations in such cases. That's a good point. I thought that, well, you can sue anybody in America, so don't get that twisted. You don't have to necessarily go through the proper reins as far as what the organization would prefer, right? And I do think an arbitration would have been better for the Knicks, but because the Knicks have jumped the gun, so to speak, or they really took it to the highest level by filing an actual lawsuit in the court of law, I think that there is something here where there's smoke is fire. Now, of course, this is all alleged information. We don't have no inside info here, but at the same time, I don't think the Knicks, a multi-billion-dollar organization, would go through this lengths if they feel like they don't have something. I do believe they have some. But at the same time, on the Raptors side, I believe some of what they're saying as well. I think it's going to be a procedural fight. Kevin Paul, a Tampa-based attorney who prosecutes and defends trade secret litigation, told the Post. I think there's a stronger argument that claims against the Raptors should head to arbitration. Okay, because it's one team against the other. Okay, right. Though not involved in the case, Paul added he's skeptical of the Knicks' argument that this dispute should be resolved by the NBA, Commissioner Adam Silver, when there's an arbitration agreement. And these are the things that are in employment agreements and certainly sports leagues. They're almost enforced, said Paulie, who's been involved in many cases. Okay, so that's a good point. At least in their letters and how the Raptors are characterizing it, the Knicks seem to be arguing that it's not enforceable by the NBA. Ooh, see this? We're basketball fans. All this legal stuff, you got me with that. I don't know nothing about this legal stuff, but that may be the reason. And like I said, a multi-billion-dollar franchise, they got legal advisors that are not going to steer them in the wrong direction. If they're suing, it's because they feel like they have a case. Like I said, where there's smoke, there's fire. So, I'm backing the Knicks in terms of I respect their decision to do the lawsuit. Doesn't mean that they're going to get the decision, but at the same time, I do honestly believe that they feel like their information was stolen, and they feel strongly about it enough to sue. So, we're going to see though the results. Okay, so then, regardless, the next step in the case, according to Paulie, would be the Knicks filing a response to the Raptors' motion to dismiss. So a decision could be a week after everything is filed. It could be up to a year. Yeah, that's another thing too. Like lawsuits take time. And he said this type of lawsuit is very rare without precedent. Professional teams don't sue other teams. That's a fact. I've never seen it. Even in the research I did, I've never seen an example of this happening. So I'm gonna jump into some quotes. This is what the Knicks spokespersons had to say. As we have previously stated, given the theft of proprietary and confidential files in clear violation of criminal and civil law, we are left no choice but to take this to federal court, and we're confident that the judicial system will agree. So they're confident that they're gonna get some resolve. And like I said, they have advisors. So they're not just suing them to just because it costs money. You got to file paperwork, you got to hire lawyers. All that costs money. So, we're going to see. But one thing about the Raptors coach, what the new Raptors coach said, that I believe, not to say that the Raptors are not, at fault. I don't know. But one of the things he said that I felt was genuine was that he went to his mother and his father. Listen, if a person's talking about their mother and their father and how they were raised, you have to give them some consideration. You have to. I mean, I don't know. I believe him. I believe the coach. But that doesn't mean that the Raptors weren't involved. because the coach not necessarily is the one who does the hiring. It depends. I mean, it's a complicated system, and then these are big franchises, so it's probably a team of people, or it goes through some sort of voting. I don't know. I'm not on the inside. I'm just a basketball fan. But because we cover the Knicks and we cover the news, so we got to talk about stuff like this. Hopefully, this issue is resolved in a way where the parties, if there is a party that's at fault, they're dealt with. And I spoke out strongly against Azotam, the guy who's alleged stealing proprietary information. That if he is found guilty, or if there's evidence showing that he did what he did, he needs to be banned from the NBA. There's no way you can have teams just sharing proprietary information and just doing whatever they want in terms of trying to get an edge on the competitors, because the Raptors and the Knicks are also rivals too. So you don't need that sort of activity going on in the NBA. We need to really get to the bottom of that, right? So now let's jump into some NBA. We're going to jump into one of our flagship topics, okay? We're going to talk about the NBA season review. And then we're going to get into some Joel Embiid in a second. But we got other topics, We cover all the hot topics with the Knicks, so we got into the games and stuff like that. Now we're going to talk about the Knicks season preview. So first off, I'm very high on the Knicks. This is their depth chart here. I'm very high on the Knicks. I honestly believe that the Knicks will finish top 3 in the East. And of course, all of these predictions are, highlighted that if in case of there is no injuries, if there's a big injury, then all of these things can change. Hey, the Knicks might finish second. Who knows? But this is the depth chart, right? Quentin Grimes, of course, he's the small forward with the big four. I'm throwing Mitch in there, the big four. And I'm just saying that those are the 4 core starters on this team. Now, Quentin Grimes, that's debatable. I think Josh Hart should be the starter. Josh Hart, they both won 3 games in the playoffs, right? Quentin Grimes played 6 games as the starting small forward or 2 guard, wherever. It's kind of positionless. You put him where you want. And Hart started 5. Hart went 3-2 and averaged a double-double. Grimes, I think, only had 1 game where he scored over 10 points and didn't play in any of the games down the stretch. So, I think that you got to start with your best foot forward, and you put Josh Hart at that position, and then you bring Grimes off the bench with IQ and Dante DiVincenzo. Of course, they got Miles McBride here. We know that Emmanuel Quickley. They're going to run a 9-man rotation, so Emmanuel Quickley, more than likely, they'll run a 9-man rotation. I didn't see anything in the reports saying otherwise, and Coach Tibbs did say that the Knicks had a net 5 rating with the 9-man rotation, and their record was significantly improved. I believe it was 37-22 when they switched to that 9-man rotation. So more than likely, Miles McBride probably won't be in the rotation, and Sims. And then they'll, coordinate the lineup, switch the lineup if they need it, where Jericho Sims could be instituted at that backup power forward spot. Right now, they got Josh Hart there. So it'll be Quickley, DiVincenzo, Hart, and Hartenstein as the 4 off the bench. Fournier, he showed that, hey, if you need him to get some minutes, he can get you some buckets, right? Deuce McBride, he showed that he can do some playmaking too, but he's your defensive guard. They also play Deuce in spot minutes. So, if the final minute of a quarter, not the final minute, but let's say the final 10 seconds of the quarter, and you need and you're on defense and you need someone to match up defensively, he might throw Deuce in there. But now I think with Dante, I think that Dante's going to take a lot of that time, those reps from Miles McBride. And then remember, Obi's 15 minutes now gets dispersed among those 3. And Josh Hart will be covering both forward positions, Quickly at the point guard position, and Hartenstein at the 5. I love it. I think this is one of the best lineups in basketball. I think we got probably the best bench in the league. When you look at the fact that we don't have no weaknesses in none of our positioning, Like we have a solid player at every single position. Like there's no weakness. Like when you look at a lot of the, maybe the Nuggets is another team that have a starting five like that. But the Nuggets bench, in my opinion, is not as deep or as nor as good as the Knicks bench. And it'd be curious to see what happens with Toppin. I think Nate Knight was waived. Um, but Toppin um, and Jalen Martin was also waived. They're gonna give Ryan Arkin-Diacono a spot. I don't like it. Don't like it. But it'd be interesting to see if Roby also was waived. But Toppin, if he can actually get some minutes, or at least be as someone that's on the bench, a lot of times, because when you're a two-way contract, you're eligible to play 50 games. So that's the depth chart. Let's see what else we got here. Why the Knicks are a good bet to overachieve in the regular season? Uh, well, let's see what they say. I already gave you some reasons. I think we got one of the best benches in basketball. I think that we have a really good defensive team. I think that we have a really good team, good rebounding team. And I think that we also were one of the most healthiest teams in the league last year, and I think that that's going to continue, even though we lost one of the key guys off our training staff. I can't remember his name, but you could Google him. He was one of the top trainers. In fact, he was one of the guys that worked with Julius Randle. And you check out this article. It's a good read. It says that it's a team that won 47 games last year, added Dante DiVincenzo, and then we had a 17-8 record with Josh Hart. That's another good point. There will be no regression. I agree. This team doesn't regress. Even if we win 45 games, that's not technically a regression, especially if we finish at the fifth seed. I think 45 wins will be enough. I got us winning 49, maybe 50 games. But like if we won 45 games, I don't think that that's a regression, or 46 games, that's not a regression, because those last couple of regular season games might become meaningless. And so you might lose some games there that don't count. And yeah, just check this article out if you want to know more about that. Another season review. I found this article here. RJ Barrett feels better heading into the season. Now, RJ Barrett is one of the integral parts to us performing well this season. We need him to step up his game. And if you read this article, it gives some insight. Let's highlight some stuff. RJ Barrett didn't play much basketball in the summer of 2022, as he mostly waited to see whether the Knicks were going to sign him to a massive contract. Yes, because RJ Barrett was, his name was linked in a lot of potential trades and deals. So he didn't even work last year. This year, man, he went with the FIBA. He got a bronze medal. And this is what he said. He said, having played this summer was big for me after Friday's practice in Tarrytown. He said, I'm just in a better rhythm as well as a routine of things. Also, just getting older, learning more, learning myself, learning my body as I'm getting older. And I'm figuring out things more and more. So I feel great. Even in the preseason games, we definitely got to get back to learning how to play together and stuff. But just conditioning wise and everything, I feel good. So I'm excited. So, RJ the year before last year, the reason why this is kind of valuable insight is because the year before last year, RJ had a really good year, actually probably the best year of his career, when he averaged 20 a game. He took that quantum leap into a 20-point per game scorer, and he played a lot of basketball and was working out. And then last year was like the first year he didn't get an opportunity to play basketball. So interesting stuff. If you want to read more about that, definitely check this out. All the links to this information will be on the website, all of the show notes, and so you can get all the insight that you want to get. So the last point of season review, and then we're gonna move forward. This Bleacher Report highlighted some of our most important games, and I agree with them. November 1st against the Cavs, that should be exciting. Because there's going to be a rematch of the playoffs where we pretty much beat them 4 games to 1, pretty much just outclassed them. Then on December, now some of these games, be on the lookout, because we are going to be doing a live play-by-play for the first game of the season. If you want to watch the game with someone, watch the game with me. I'm going to break it down for you so you can get everything that you need to know. And I'm going to be covering the game. So sometimes you want to watch a Knick game with a friend. I'll be that guy. All you gotta do is just put the volume on mute because let's keep it real. When the Knicks are on national TV, they don't give it the flavor that we need. You need that New York flavor when you're commentating or listening to the commentary. And with me, you can interact with me, talk. We're gonna have the live chat. So I'll probably go live around 6. No, I'll go live around game time because MSG is gonna do a pregame. So I'm not gonna compete with MSG. So definitely hop on the live show review. Then we got December 20th, Christmas Day against the Bucks. This is gonna be a big game. But we see the Bucks before that in the in-season tournament. That's gonna be pretty interesting. But in terms of big games for the year, this is gonna be a big game. And speaking of in-season tournament, to add to this list, because I know that's not on here, if the Knicks happen to make it to the final, that could be an additional big game. April 2nd against the Heat. Yeah, I'm assuming that this will be the last meetup of the year, and this might, have some playoff, standings, on the line here. So this game might be pretty important. We'll see. I'm not sure about that one, but yeah, because I don't think Miami is going to be. That's a whole nother topic. And then, of course, this is the game that we're going to be covering right here on this channel. I will be doing a live play-by-play. So um, definitely make sure you're in the building October 25th at 7 o'clock. And then February 22nd, they got the Sixers game. And the only reason why they got this game is because they don't know if Joel Embiid will be a Sixer or he could be a Knick. Who knows? But salute to Bleacher Report. That was a nice article about the most important games of the Knicks regular season. That'll be my season review. I spoke about what I think the Knicks will do in previous episodes, and I'll say it. I think the Knicks could win 49 games. I think that's going to be good enough to get us at least third or fourth in the East. And I'm really looking forward to a second round matchup against the Celtics. I think we're going to kick their butts. And I don't care about Jrue Holiday. I don't care about Jason Tatum. I care about Jason Tatum. But I don't care about Jaylen Brown and even KP. Now, KP is possibly the second toughest cover in that matchup because he can shoot the three. But we got Jericho Sims and we got Isaiah Hartenstein who can guard pretty solid on the perimeter. I'm not going to say they're perimeter stoppers, but Mitch is kind of in no man's land at times on the perimeter. Though I do think he can cover it. He's going to have to show me that he can defend KP on the perimeter because that's where KP is going to be. He's not going to be on the inside. So now we jump into our flagship title or our flagship topic. We'll jump into the whole Joel Embiid insider scuttlebutt. Joel Embiid was a New York trade. Now, to those who don't know what a scuttlebutt is, it's like rumors. It's like insider talk, right? And this is from Chris Broussard, right? And Chris Broussard says there's a scuttlebutt in some corners of the league that Embiid wants to go to New York. Now, that's big news for the Knicks because we've seen what having an MVP can do. Oh, I didn't even get into the Liberty. My fault. I forgot to jump into the Liberty. We see what it done for the New York Liberty, helping them get to the finals. I think that you're going to need MVP caliber players to take that next step. And I think Joel Embiid is that guy. But he said, now he's not going to come and say he doesn't want the backlash from Philly fans. But yeah, the scuttlebutt that has the eye on New York. But look, we always associate the Knicks with all these great players on other teams. Facts. I'm getting tired of it. Zion, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving. I'm getting tired of it. Karl-Anthony Towns. Karl-Anthony Towns, I don't think is in that level of player, but we are associated with stars every year. So I'm not going to count on that. But Embiid would lead them to a championship. I'm sorry, he wouldn't. So he doesn't think that Joel Embiid can lead us to a championship. I disagree with him. I do think it matters who you trade in that Joel Embiid trade. I mean, if we can go back to the depth chart and you look at this team. So like, if you don't kill off your depth, like if you literally can do RJ and quickly, hypothetically, not that I want to see this happen. Let's say you do RJ quickly with Fournier for Embiid and a throwing contract, throwing player. I don't even know who Philly has that I would take, but let's say you do these three players right here, RJ quickly, Fournier. Or maybe, okay, you don't want to kill off your guard depth. So maybe you do Mitch, RJ, Fournier with a throwing player from the Sixers and Embiid and get them like 2, 3 picks. That should be enough to get the job done. Or if you trade Randall and Mitch and picks and somehow throw Fournier in the deal to try to maybe get a throw-in player, I think that you could possibly win the chair, but you're going to need a 4. So I think they would probably look to trade RJ more than they would trade Randall. You trade RJ with Mitch, right? And then Fournier and picks for Embiid. And then now you'll have Quickly or you'll have Harden Grimes more than likely with Randall, Brunson, and Embiid. That's a hell of a lineup. That's a hell of a lineup. And then you'll have Dante DiVincenzo and Quickly off the bench with Hartstein. You still got Sims. Sims will be moved up into that 4 spot. That's a lineup that's completing for a championship. I'm sorry, Chris, I disagree with you, but it's only rumors and we don't have anything but scuttlebutt. That scuttlebutt is as good as, saying that, yeah, there's a check in the mail. I mean, how do we know that Joel Embiid wants to come to New York? What if he says, I want to go to Boston or I want to go to Miami, right? Or I want to go, or I'm going to go to the Clippers. It's no guarantee that he wants to come to the Knicks. I think the only way for that deal to get done is he would actually want to have to want to come to the Knicks. And yeah, so that's my flash. I mean, what do you think? Do you think that Joel Embiid, 2 things. Do you think that Joel Embiid could get us to the championships? You know what? Let's jump into word in the street. Actually, I know what you think on this, but I want to know that. Answer that question. Okay, so according to reports, right, we said that, Joel Embiid allegedly has a strong desire. But what do you think are the chances? This is what I asked. 260 Knicks fans voted, and 42% said there's a small chance, which still is a chance. 20% says no chance. I'm kind of starting to feel like these people, but I did say small chance in my vote. And then great chance. There's 32% of fans say they are optimistic, and 6% say I don't know. So Knicks fans are really confident in how they feel about this deal. I'm going to say it's a small chance. And I don't know, man. I mean, this guy, James Harden, is the key to all of this. So when you start to make a plan and there's so many dominoes that have to fall for it to actually come about, it kind of limits the opportunity for it to happen. So Harden has to get traded. They have to get back pieces that they don't want. Then Embiid has to say, I'm going to go to the Knicks. And then now they got to get on the phone with the Knicks to try to make a deal happen. That can take a while. I mean, look what happened with the Dame Lillard scenario, right? So so we're going to get into word on the street, but I just wanted to show you what Knicks fans thought about this report. But I do want to know how you feel about Joel Embiid, him turning us into a championship contender. Now, this is some other word on the street questions I asked. Even though last night was a preliminary preseason matchup between the Knicks and the Wolves, did Karl-Anthony Towns' performance against Randall prove that the Knicks should trade for him? Now, Randall has one of the most polarizing relationships with Knicks fans. I mean, it's either you love him or hate him. Some Knicks fans are neutral, but he has a lot of supporters and guys that just don't like him. Now, 294 people voted, and 31% said yes. These are the people that they just don't like Randall. Because even if you don't like Randall, why would you want to trade Randall for Towns? It just doesn't make sense to me. You're getting the same player in return, but a less durable player. And then 48% of Knicks fans said no, right? I put it's only preseason, knock it off. Because people were making a big deal out of preseason. We already went over that. 4% say that I don't know. So Knicks fans are pretty sure on this, no matter what position they voted. And I'm just saying it's only preseason. Y'all need to knock it off, right? Let's see Towns put up 50 against Randall twice. I think they see the Wolves twice this year. Let's see that, right? Now game 2 of the Knicks preseason game against the Wolves had a few bright spots besides I forgot to put bright. Despite the usual sloppy play in preseason basketball, besides RJ, which Knicks player performance stood out to you the most? Right? And of course, I took RJ out because the argument could be made that he was the most impressive player. But um, I said Deuce McBride because I like the way he was able to take over the offensive end, score and defend. I appreciated his game that night. I think that Deuce McBride showed me that if needed, he can be someone you can rely on. Evan Fournier, 23% because of his shooting, and then 52 say Mitch because Mitch matched up with Gobert. Like I said, typically Mitch he cowers against those guys, but this time he was on the money. Let's move forward. Bill Simmons at it again. So he had this list where he created the most fun preseason, fun teams versus the most boring teams, right? And of course, he has the Knicks as number 18 on his list. And so, what are your thoughts? And then, so 60% of fans say they should be in the top 10. I agree. I think that the way the Knicks play basketball is exciting. It's fun to watch. Yeah, we lost Obi Toppin, who was a highlight reel, but we got Mitch Robinson catching lobs. You got Julius Randle putting dudes on poster. You got Jalen Brunson making a guy fall. You got Jalen Brunson making a guy fall after he made his teammate fall in Alex Caruso. That was one of the best highlights I've seen from a Knick ankle breaker in a long time, right? 21% say top 20, so they agree with Bill Simmons. 6% say bottom 10, 8% say I don't know. So people are pretty confident in their choices. I got into a debate with someone on here. They said that we're boring, but we are effective. That's undeniable. I mean, what makes us boring? Our offensive schemes. I mean, I wish I would pull up the list. I'm not, but if you look at the list of the teams ahead of us, I mean, half of those teams are like what would justify them being more excited than Um, so yeah. So that's all for the word on the street. We can move forward. I just wanted to make sure I got the word on the street. Okay, so Bob Myers gave us some praise. He said that he believes that the Knicks are actually an attractive destination for star players. I agree with him. I think he said what shifted was there was a time where I felt like people may not have wanted to play in New York City, and I think it's changed. I think now you're looking at murmurings, hearing things. Hey, what about the Knicks? And the draft capital you have? Yes, we have draft capital, and it's a realistic thing. It's not some layperson saying, well, the Knicks should go get this guy. Now it's viable. It's possible. And they have what it takes, first round picks in their cabinet to do it. They've got a lot of good young players, pretty affordable contracts. And they're just another team that kind of waiting for that next big thing. Yeah. So I agree. Salute to Bob Myers. He was the former Warriors GM, and he has praise for the Knicks. I was hoping that he joined the Knicks organization, but I figured that he don't want to be the second guy because Leon Rose is the main guy. So just to wrap up, because I don't want this episode to go on for too long. Just to wrap up, Mitchell Robinson was mentioned in trades for Jrue Holiday. I don't believe that. Why would the Knicks trade? First off, the Portland Trailblazers have DeAndre Ayton, but they're gonna play Ayton and Mitchell Robinson together. That was complete nonsense. Complete nonsense. Mitchell Robinson, no, I don't believe he was mentioned in trade talks. And Leon Rose, we have a GM that has sense. Rudy Gobert, he says what they did to Evan Fournier is disrespectful. He's the best shooter on the team. He's the best shooter on the Knicks. Uh, you know, in terms of pure 3-point shooting, I think he's the best. I think he could contribute to a lot of teams. I think everybody knows it, but it's kind of weird when you end up on the bench and you don't really know why. The reason why he was put on the bench is because, yes, he may be the best pure 3-point shooter on the team, but that's the only thing that he can do. He doesn't defend. He doesn't make plays for anybody else. He's a ball stopper. You don't need a guy like that in the rotation. Like Coach Tibbs says, you can't argue with a net 5 rating. You can't argue with 37 and 22. You can't argue with those things. Like, Towns, sorry, not Towns, Gobert. Sorry, Rudy Gobert. My fault. I said Towns. Let's move forward. He says disgusting because salute to Jeff Van Gundy. Also salute to Rick Pitino too, taking over St. John's. I never got into that. I'll link this article in the notes. But salute to Tom Thibodeau. salute to Jeff Van Gundy getting his new job. But he says it makes him disgusting to see him in that green. I thought that was funny. Of course, he's happy for him. Salute to Jeff Van Gundy. And that's all for this podcast. We covered the Knicks in 50 minutes. You gave me 50 minutes. I gave you the Knicks. And we'll see you next week. We're going to be starting season episode 1, or I'm not sure if I'm going to reset the episodes, but definitely the first episode of the NBA season 2024, 2023 into 2024 season. So I look forward to having you guys around. Make sure you hop on this Wednesday, live play-by-play. We're going to be going up against the Celtics, and it's going to be on national TV. So if it's a national TV game, I like to jump on and I like to do live play-by-plays. And that's all for this video. Until next time, let's go Knicks!